Faith, family, wrestling. This is Wrestling for the Faith.
Wrestling for the Faith.
And now, here's your host, Casey Kage.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wrestling for the Faith. I'm your host, Casey Kage, and I am honored today to have with me a man who I have a great deal of respect for, a man who I have ridden up and down the road with a few times and had the honor of getting a little bit of his wrestling knowledge. Longtime wrestler and promoter, Big Wood, the Lumberjack. Woody, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you on, and you know, before we started recording, we were just talking about some things, and you know, we was talking about we all have stories, and one thing that I was thinking about before we got together is we've made some trips. I remember, you know, some trips to North Carolina, and I think there's maybe some Tennessee trips and stuff like that. And we've shared plenty of locker rooms together. But I can't really remember sitting down and having too much of an in-depth conversation of like your start and throughout your career. And you know, it was intriguing to me to sit down with you, one of the most respected veterans in our area here, and just get your story. I'd like to just hear, you know, I think it would be interesting for all the listeners out there, just where you started and all the way through till today. And I mean, I'm sure we can't cover everything, but
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
So, but how did you get started, and when did you get started?
Well, I guess I was around 20-year-old, fixing to turn 21, and I went into a store that me and a bunch of my friends had always hung out at, and I ran into a guy there. I ran into a guy there named Eddie. I never forgot Eddie's last name, but he went by Sonny Hartless. He was a wrestler, and my cousin goes, "Yeah, he's a wrestler, blah, blah, blah." And Sonny goes, "Y'all, you're a pretty big strapping boy. You'd make a good wrestler." And I'm like, "You think so?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And he said, "Yeah, I got a training school in Dalton, and you ought to come and give it a try." Well, I said, well, I played softball with my buddy Paul Watkins, which was my first tag team partner. Went by Big Tiny. We was inseparable. We're always doing stuff together at that time. And so I called him. I said, "Hey, I know this guy. He's a wrestler, and he wants to train us to wrestle, and you want to do it?" And he's like, "Yeah, you know, a wrestler or whatever, you know." So we went and done it. We trained at MWF. It was called Mountain Federation. I think it was ran by Clarence Keith and John. I forgot John's last name. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names nowadays. John Cowart. John Cowart was his name.
I don't think I know that one. But Clarence Keith, now he went on to be a ring announcer and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know him.
And so we trained there it was rough. It was really rough. We trained there probably 5-6 months where we had our first match twice a week.
Yeah.
About 3 hours a session.
So now who was it that was training you there?
Sonny Hartless was his name. They had two teachers there. They had Sonny Hartless. He taught on Mondays and Thursdays, I believe it was, or Mondays and Wednesdays. And then they had Chief Little in, took 2 other opposite nights. Then they ran shows there on Saturday. It was the old warehouse grocery building in Dalton, right across from the mall, which now is doctor's offices. But it was a huge little place. They had it split up. They had putt golf in one side and a game room and a teen club in the back. And they had about a 300-seat arena right there in the middle of the building. So it was a nice little setup.
That's cool. That Mountain Wrestling Federation, maybe I've seen you mention it, or was David Young there?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've seen.
Yeah, David Young trained with me in my class. It was me, my partner Tiny, David Young. David Young was 16-year-old at the time, just a little bitty thing, and me and Tiny would go pick him up at his house and bring him and take him back and forth to training. And there was another guy called, his real name is Bob Andrews. He's from Cleveland. I think he works at one of the, might be Duracell, I think he works at. And, or he did at the time. And he went by Bob Anderson, and he was like so good. And he was like, his career didn't last, but a couple years he just quit. And, but he was really good, and what a waste of talent.
Wow. You know, I've seen several of them like that had something, and then they just, but they never. It was like a childhood dream just to do it.
Yeah.
And they'd do, they did a few shows, and it was like,
yeah, this ain't not for me.
Yeah. So from there, how long were you there, and was that the only place that you worked for a while?
That was the only place I worked at. The deal was, I wasted my first 7 years of my wrestling career by wrestling there. I was compliant with just wrestling once a week and had the dreams I'm going to go somewhere bigger, but I never did put the work in like I should have.
Right.
I wrestled there for about 7 years off and on. I'd wrestled 4 or 5 months with them, and at Entertainment we had a big brawl broke out one night, and we got in a fight with about 5 or 6 wrestling fans, me and my partner and my manager that time, the coach. So they kind of, after the fight was over and they got everything broke up, and they shoveled us out the door, and I was probably off for 4 or 5 months. And then at that time Chief Littleton was booking, and somewhere in that area Lynn lost the book, Larry Santana got the book, and then Larry Santana was like, hey, I need you to do this gimmick, and would you come do it? So I wasn't doing nothing at the time, and at that time you didn't have the internet,
right?
And if you wanted to book, and you had to go to the places and either get one of their top guys. Yeah, like I said, back at that time, there was no internet. You couldn't just send your guy your YouTube link or whatnot, and couldn't send him your promo pics. Everything had to be done by the U.S. mail, the postal service, or you literally had to hop in your car, drive 4 hours to town. Like I said, hoping that they'll let you work with one of their top guys and show them what you can do, or maybe you get lucky and somebody don't show and get your spot. And you'd have to have references, and so and so trained me. This guy can vouch for me, kind of stuff. Also, but like I said, it's so much easier to get bookings nowadays. Of course, and another thing, there wasn't as many towns and shows then. It's like when I started, I knew of 1, 2, 3, 4, about, I'm going to say, maybe 8 shows in a 300-mile circle, that I knew of.
Right.
There was probably more, but like I said, you just couldn't Google, pro wrestling promotions and find it. You just had to see them in the magazines, or one of the boys would have to tell you about it back then.
Yeah.
So it was a different monster back in, a lot harder.
Well,
and the business was a lot tighter too. If not, you can't. Nowadays, a lot of guys can just say, "Hey, I'm a wrestler," and they'll book you just because, But now, back in, it was a lot different.
Yeah, and that's one thing, and I know probably get heat for saying this, but that's one of the big things that's wrong with the business today. Is
without a doubt,
I'm a wrestler. Anybody that and you got to be so. you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, you have to be, I guess you might say politically correct or whatever. And I'll tell you another drawback to training. So the training back in was way more brutal. I mean, dude, I bumped for 3 hours. and probably for 2 weeks and never touched a rope, never done a move. I bumped and did Hindu squats. We did a bunch of Hindu squats. And I probably had 6-8 sessions before I ever even touched a rope or did anything. You know, we would do lockups and do reversals and bumps, stuff like that. But, you know, and like we would always get at least an hour or so of bumps in.
Yeah.
I remember my first training day, I was working at Candlewick Yarns in Ringgold at the time, and I worked first shift. So we trained that evening, and man, like I said, I bumped like 3 hours. And they had like garbage cans around the ring. You'd bump, go throw up, get in there and bump, you know, get you a drink of water and go back. And I got up the next morning and I literally had to crawl to the phone and called in to work.
Wow.
So later that afternoon, I called my partner and I'm like, hey, man. I'm like, how you feel? He goes, man, I think I'm going to die. And I said, me too. And we was both wanting the other to say, man, let's just give it up. Let's not go back. But both of us were too proud to get winning. We know that now because we told each other that. But we were both too proud to tell the other that we wanted to quit. So we ended up sucking it up and going through with it. But that's pretty funny.
And that's that training. And I mean, mine wasn't horrible, but it was pretty rough too. A lot rougher than a lot of these guys today. Oh, and that's one of the things that the older vets, they wanted to make sure that you had the heart for it.
Oh yeah.
Before they would bring you in and open everything up to you.
Pay your dues.
Right.
Had to pay your dues. Yeah. And nobody pays dues anymore. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, you do when you go to WWE or stuff like that. And there is a handful of training schools out there that do make you pay your dues, but the majority of them don't nowadays.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject.
It is, especially the older guys. Like I said, it's a different breed nowadays, and of course, it's like, you know, I ran wrestling, promoted wrestling also, but times have changed. The business has changed, and you got to get with the times or get left behind. Right.
Well, and nowadays, today, and this is, I don't believe that we should just completely be, you know, killing somebody who comes into the training school, 10 chair shots straight to the head or anything like that. But, you know, there used to be a protocol, and I only trained, there was 2 people who actually made it, and they wrestled for a little bit, and then they fizzled out. There was this one guy who was, he had just come out of the military. He was jacked up. He's 6'2", 6'3", probably about 250, ripped to shreds, and and he come to the house, and I don't even remember who put him in contact with me, but he got in contact with me and said, hey, I heard you had a ring and you train. And I'm like, yeah, come to the house. I'll take a look at you. And when this guy showed up, and I looked at him and I said, now this, and me and you both being Ted Allen guys.
Yeah.
I looked at this guy and I said, this is my arm.
Yeah.
This is, nobody will know who I am, but
through him.
They're gonna remember me through this guy. But he
fizzled out.
He only made it. I don't even know if he made it more than one session. But I mean, I got the guys in there, and I would make them roll around with me, amateur style, not. And and stretch them and just see what they could take and run them cardio, like you were saying, Hindu squats,
Yeah.
running the ropes, drop downs, all these, and I mean, several
we went
times,
through.
several times having them puke,
Yeah.
and that's, but I don't know if people do that hardly anymore or not. I mean, my Lord, you might get sued.
Yeah.
In the world we live in today.
That brings up a story. I was doing a training that Doug Watkins placed down at TWA at one time years ago, and this big old guy come in there, and then he played football for University of Georgia, and he was all coming there all cocky and stuff, and I played football at University of Georgia. I can handle this, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, buddy, we'll see what you got. And in 15 minutes, he was blowing chunks in the garbage can over there, and out the door he was gone in about 15 minutes. And he was a big old, he's a hoss.
Yeah.
But he just didn't have no grit.
Well, there's, you hear the guys say it all the time. In our business, there's a huge difference. You can go and run for hours straight on a treadmill in the gym.
Oh yeah.
But having cardio in the gym and having wrestling cardio is two different, totally different animals.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they can't, they might look like $1,000,000 and they might can run miles and miles, but when they get in that ring, there's something totally different that blows a lot of people up easily. But okay, so Mountain Wrestling Federation, you're there.
Sorry,
it's all right. Yeah. But you go. You said you was there mainly for like
about 7 years. Then I met Ted Allen.
Oh, there we go. How about that?
Then I met Ted Allen. Ted Allen ended up being one of my good friends there. Not to start with, but we did business together. And I started working for Ted some, and I started doing other shows, working for Ron West and some of the other guys. But I met Ted, and he took, a lot of times I'd help him go do ring stuff. Mm-hmm. And it'd end up somebody not showing up, I'd get a spot here and there. But Ted taught me so much on the road. I learned so much just listening to the stories, He taught me Carney. I didn't know what Carney was. And, or we'd sit and practice Carney, and then I passed it down to other folks. And I'm not fluent in Carney anymore because I haven't used it so much. That's something you have to.
It has been a while.
Since practice. Billy Black was the best I ever seen at it. I mean, he called the whole match in Carney and just blow your mind. But Ted showed me a lot. He showed me all parts of the business, as far as the ring and the traveling and stuff. And he, like I said, I just did stuff. Like I said, at that time, it still wasn't the big doors. It wasn't easy to get bookings still, and there still wasn't as many towns and shows to do. But Ted kept me kind of busy some, and then, like I said, I do a couple shows with Ron every now and then. Then, trying to think, Keith Hart was running Spring City. I would work in Spring City and stuff, and let's see, Doug was running. I would work with Doug still, and at that time, Doug and Iceman Wilson had TWA, and they were in Cleveland, Tennessee, and it was one of the hot places to be at the time.
Now, what's the years on this?
Oh gosh, let me see. Let's see. I'm looking. Let's see, 99. I'm gonna say 9 years from 99. So you're looking 2000. Let's say 99, or say it was 89. I'm sorry. Right around. So I'm going to say around 98. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was around 98.
So 98, TWA
right
was in Cleveland.
I'm trying to say I'm horrible with time frames, and I don't want to say. I'm not sure exactly. So when I started, it was around, like I said, I think around 88 or 89. And I'm gonna say about 7, 8 years after that. Doug and them.
So
running.
mid 90s, man. And I grew up in Cleveland, and I never knew where were they.
It was down on Blue Springs Road. You remember Blue Springs Road?
Yeah.
It's the building's still there, and it's a pallet company now. I drove by a while back, and it's pallets, but it's on Blue Springs Road there, and there's a little road there. But Doug and them ran there for a couple years, and then they sold the property. I believe that's what it was. Don't quote me on that, but he ended up in Rossville, Georgia, and that was really a hot place.
Yeah, I've heard the stories.
It was on
about
McFarland Avenue. He got a building from Kenny LaCroix had one there, and he ran there for several years until he decided to go to Dalton. But that place was hot, man. It was 150 to 250 every show there. It was hot.
Yeah.
That was on a Friday night too. That was
and
strong.
That's real good for a weekly show.
I'm sorry, I'm not better with my time frame. Sky could be totally wrong.
No, it interested me because I grew up in Cleveland, and I couldn't ever think of going to a TWA show.
Yeah.
Now I remember Ron West came to Cleveland. I'm thinking 96, 97, and was running the Village.
Yeah.
And I remember going to them. Were you on any of those?
I was not in the Village. I worked for him, man, when he's running Athens at the Armory.
Okay.
Ron and Brent, that was Ron pretty much promoted it, and Brent was pretty much booked it. You know, and they had some stack cards. You know, you'd have Gordy there, and a bunch of guys like that there, and then intertwined. Then it was also UEW was coming up around that time too. It was Eddie Griffin. He's an old guy from the Goulas days. Mm-hmm. Robbie Griffin's dad. They were running, so it was a pretty hot show. You know, that was around 2000. And I'm gonna get to it because I was working there. That's when I started working for NACW in the Carolinas. That's when I got my big break.
Right.
NACW was ran by Ben Throckmorton, and Ted got me that booking because Ted was doing the ring, and he was up over with our buddy Randall Brown, living up there in his area. So they'd been friends for years, and Randall talked Ted into coming up there and living and helping Ben with the wrestling show. So that was a hot show. It was started in Charlotte, and it growed. It was all over North Carolina on TV, and South Carolina. It was all over South Carolina and parts of Virginia and West Virginia. Then they got a TV deal with Comcast Sports South. And it was on in 8 states. Everywhere the SEC had an SEC school, it was on in that state. It was a bad time slot. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, but it's still a good TV slot.
Now, I can't remember. Now, what you said that was around 2000. How long did that last there?
I think Ben ran from around, not quote me, 2000 or 2000. I'm gonna say 2001 maybe. To 2005 or 6.
Okay, so because I was thinking that I was catching it on TV right before I started in the business, and I started in 03. So I remember catching it because
it was hot in 03. Around 03, it was really hot.
Yeah,
that time.
I remember running across it on CSS.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh wow. You know, because you didn't get to see, you know, stuff like that. And it reminded me of like Smoky Mountain.
Yeah.
Because I grew up watching Smoky Mountain.
It was a pretty good product, but at that time, when everybody that was on the show thought they were cocks to the walk because it was I mean, come on, you're on TV and in a lot of states, and that was unheard of back in, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And now that I go back and I watch the old tapes, it wasn't as good as I thought it was. You know,
I've not went back and watched any of it in a long time, but I just remember, you know, you as a fan, you know, when all that's on TV is WWE or WWF at that time, they were probably about the transition stage, and then WCW is close to gone or gone at that time.
That's when they were battling. And,
and I mean, so you don't, you know, but to see stuff like that, and I mean, it might not be as good as it was, but when I was watching it, just to see something different than the mainstream, you know, global companies, I enjoyed watching it.
Well, that opened a lot of doors at that time. WCW was failing and losing money, and they were cutting guys loose. So that was opening doors for other shows, other independent shows, and like NACW is like, you know, you could have the Rock and Roll Express, you could have the Barbarian, you could have Lash LaRue.
Yeah.
You could have guys like that, Buff Bagwell and stuff like that, come because they're not under contract no more. And they're still hot off of TV, and people can still remember them.
Yeah.
So that was good for that time. And the house shows would draw good. You'd go to one town, you draw 600 people. You go to the next town and draw 100 people. You know, it was just, you had to find that one formula on which towns would do good, you know.
Right.
But it was, it was a lot of people jumping ship back and forth. ECW was hot. You know, at that time you could get ECW guys too, so there was a lot of doors there at that time.
Yeah. Now, how long did Ted live in North Carolina? Because I remember riding down the road with him, and him telling me, you know, he's talking about Memphis. And he's talking about he didn't like being that far from home, so. You know, his stint in 81 in Memphis, you know, he said he got tired of it and wanted to come home.
Yeah, he wanted to be home.
So I just can't imagine him living far away from his.
Well, at that time, his kids was grown then. So,
right.
Kids is grown, married, doing their own thing or whatnot. So what he would do, he'd bounce back and forth. About an 8-hour trip back and forth. So, I'm going to say, you know, he lit. It's hard to tell. You know, Ted's a Rolling Stone, so you know, no moss, you know, ever growed on it. So, you know, off and on, he lived there a couple years. Then he'd go back to Georgia and, you know, stay in Georgia for 6 months. Then he'd go stay up at Randall's 3-4 months. You know, he'd bounce back and forth, you know. So. And a lot of times him and Randall would do rings together and stuff. Randall made the High Spots ring, and him and Ted, they were always trying to get over on each other on trades and deals. And if one of them burnt the other one, you know, the other one wouldn't let it go until he burnt the other one. So, but, you know, he bounced back and forth, you know. I know there at one time he probably stayed 1.5, 2 years, you know, back and forth, you know, but... you know, he just bounced back there between there and Cartersville. Yeah. But
that man right there, I think he helped more people than he would have ever realized.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny, like, I don't know how was your meeting with him when you first got good and acquainted?
Yeah, I met him. I'm trying to think where I met him through. I think maybe I showed up in White when he was running White one time, and some of the guys that's what it was. Some of the guys I knew were working for him. David Young and some of them guys were. So that's how I met Ted, was through that. And I went to a show, and I remember I went to the show and was wanting to hang out, but he wouldn't let me in without making me pay. So I didn't go in. So I just hung around and talked to some of the guys out back. And we ended up meeting, and then we met somewhere else. We was on another show somewhere. then that's when he started using me some here and there, and you know, Ted helped a lot of folks, but Ted helped Ted too. You know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you know, if he took you somewhere, he needed you for something. He needed to bring you up. He needed something. But I think it was, you know, a give and take kind of thing, you know. You pick up knowledge by helping him. You know, he'd pay you a little bit, you know, feed you, and you get to meet a lot of interesting people. But it was a give and take thing. You know, he got his labor out of you, and he, you know, but you would get knowledge. I mean, a ton of knowledge from him. And he didn't care to share it.
Right.
He didn't care to share it.
I remember, you know, I started in 2003 and was working down in the Trine Rome area. And, you know, he had come in a time or two and just worked, and, you know, I'd shook his hand but never really talked to him or anything. And then it was maybe a year and a half later after I'd first met him. It was up the road. Remember, in that area there was Rome, and then there was Trine, and then one show went out of business and two started on, you know, on the hill across from each other.
Yeah,
but we were on one, and you know, it was a really good draw. I mean, they had at least 500 packed in that little building. It was the one down by not the storage buildings, but
Phil ran up the hill.
Okay.
Yeah, Phil.
Not the red building that Phil and Jimmy
ran,
Powell run.
Yeah, and the Collins boys' dad ran at the bottom of the hill.
It was that building. I couldn't remember. I guess it probably was their dad. At that time.
Was their dad. He's in Ohio now.
Okay. Yeah,
he's running shows in Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We were at that show, and I had, and they'd brought in, I think, Bagwell and Rick Steiner, and Ted was there, and then I worked Jimmy Rave, and me and Jimmy went out and just had a simple, old school Southern match that, you know, got over. We worked the chain the whole time, and, you know, he would hide it and he would choke me and he'd hide it, and had Sal Renaro outside, so they was passing chain. I mean, easy stuff. But you know, the crowd was really into it. Well, come back during intermission, and I go out, and Ted's sitting there selling his gimmicks. He's got some mask and everything, you know, of course. And I asked him, I said, you mind if I sit down here with you? And he said, no, go ahead. So I sat there through intermission, and I sold some pictures and whatnot, and just sat and talked to him. And he said, I enjoyed that match. And I said, well, thank you very much. And he just started talking. He said, you ever been on the road? I said, well, here and there. And at that time, I was, I had just started doing a little bit for USA in Nashville, you know. And he said, nah, I could use somebody to help me with rings. And
there you go.
Yeah. and I said, well, yeah. I gave him my number. I said, I'd love to anytime, you know. I said, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. And anything that I can do to learn and get myself out there more, then, you know, I'd appreciate it. And it was like, that was on a Saturday night, and I believe it was Monday. He called me and he said, hey, you want to meet me down here at the Waffle House and go with me to Mississippi? I'm picking up a ring. I said, well, sure. But I mean, like you said, those car rides, I learned more from that man just riding up and down the road than I did in my whole career.
Yeah, me too. Without a doubt. Like I said, he didn't mind sharing his stuff. I mean, and that passes the time on the road too, you know.
Yeah.
But he would, he could tell some stories, you know, because he'd done a lot.
Right.
You know, I mean, a lot of promoting, and he had a good wrestling career, and and he was a talented individual all the way around. Now, I think he was always the one guy that deserved the big time shot that never got it really, one of the bigs. But I think a lot of it, he was a great wrestler, but it was a little light on the personality department. It was kind of quiet. And I think that's probably what ended up hurting him in the long run.
Right. I remember one time I don't even remember where we were going or but I remember we was riding down the road, and, of course I grew up on Arn Anderson and the Horsemen and everything, and I made the comment, we're talking about Arn, and he tells me, about meeting him and training him and them, him taking him around to Fuller's and stuff like that,
He went to Watts and stuff too.
Yeah.
Watts was running that time.
And he's telling me a little bit about that, and I said, I sure wish he would have been the world champion. Oh, Lordy. Ted said, world TV champion, how many times? World tag team champion, how many times? He said, how many world titles you want him to win? I said, okay. Yeah. And I'd never thought about it like that. Because I always thought the big belt, the number one guy.
That was the one.
But no, he said that, and I thought, it kind of gave me a more of an understanding that just because you're not the very tippy top don't mean that you've not achieved your dreams.
Yeah. Everybody's got a part on the show anyway.
Exactly.
They all have their contributions to each match does, you know. So, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's there's a lot of guys made it and never held a belt too,
Right.
You think about it that way, you get to do what you love and get paid for it and make a living at it. That's a blessing right there,
Yeah,
a lot of folks never leave Dalton or Chattanooga or whatever, and if you get to make a living doing what you love, that's good.
Yeah, that's there were several that we've seen over the years who they had something, but they didn't want to leave home.
Yeah,
didn't want to branch out, didn't want to get out, and I remember my first time at USA, and I went up and did a dark match before one of their TVs, and Bert Prentice come back there and he said, "You lose that gut, kid, and I'll make you a star."
Oh, Bert, he's a good one. He's still running.
Yeah,
it's if there's a wrestling Hall of Fame, I think Bert Prentice needs to be in it. There is one, but I think Bert Prentice ought to be in it.
Yeah, he's
a hustler, buddy.
Oh yeah, he definitely is.
Don't tell him I was putting him over though.
No. But so promoting. So how did you transition, and when was the first show that you promoted? Did you promote before you moved into DSCW or? Years ago, I used to run the fairs in Dalton every year. I think the year before, Greg Price run it, and I ran into somebody over the Fair Association, and this is probably 10 years in the business, so I'm gonna guess 8, 9, right around the. Gosh, I'm so bad with time frames. I've probably been in the business 8, 9 years, something like that. So I said, hey, let us give you a bid and see if we can maybe do something for you. I can guarantee you some names and stuff and that like that. So that's my first shows I ever promoted was the fair shows in Dalton, and then after that I got the brainstorm to run Sand Mountain, Alabama, and on a Sunday, no less. So I went up there and drawed about 13 people, and of course times is different. It was hard to get the word out, but it was. I ran Ider, Alabama. It's right in between Rainsville and
guess you might say Trenton.
Yeah, now I've worked there. I don't know who in the world it was for, but I remember going to Eider because I remember whoever the promoter was. He said we're running Eider, and I was like, Eider, Eider, only in Alabama.
Clarence ran Eider. I remember that. I don't know if that was him. He ran it, and as Jack Lord run, I think he ran that area some. But so after that, I tried to run Cohutta, Georgia. I went and bought a ring for $250 from one of the Tankersley boys, which used to do, I think it was the interns for back in the Goulas days, which was a generic intern. But I bought the ring for him for $250 and fixed it up. So I ran there, and it was a flop. So that was the end of my promoting career for a while. Sold that ring to Keith Hart. He kept it for a long time. And another, say, I guess another 7-8 years went. Then I decided to run a couple shows here and there at Doug's. Then I ended up moving to LJ, and I decided when I was living in LJ, I'd start running. So I started running Deep Southern Championship Wrestling, and I ran an outdoor show at the back of a putt-putt golf course up there.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
What was that place called?
I forgot. You were on that card,
Yeah,
weren't you?
yeah.
Yeah, you were on that card. But I ran there for a while. I ran there for 5 or 6 shows. Then Police Chief Johnny Searcy from Blue Ridge, Georgia, he's like, man, I heard you run shows, and let's run shows here, man. I can get you the money. We can run shows. I'm like, okay, let's do it, So I got with him, and I started running Fannin County High School, and we'd run there once a month, and we'd run some hot shows and some big cards with some big names and a bunch of good talent. And I think our first show there, you were on it. It probably drawed 300 people, I guess. I cut the gym in half, remember, and put them on one side for can't shoot it on camera.
Right.
And we outgrew that. The next show, I split the gym in half, and it probably had 400 or 500 people in it. And then we moved to using the full gym, and we had that one big show. It was Toys for Tots, and we had over 600 people on that show. And not Toys for Tots, it was Empty Stocking, Fannin County Empty Stocking. It drawed really good. So we ended up running there for off and on a couple years, and we start running LJ at the Civic Center, and we ran some other places. And then ended up getting that building, the old Buffington gym in Blue Ridge, and I ran there. I was a permanent setup. It was good for a while. Then we lost the lease on that place. Not lost the lease. They were going to sell the place, or they decided they were going to sell it or something. Well, that fell through, and we ended up getting that gym back about a year later. So we ran it another couple of years, and I've done a bunch of good stuff. I had AJ Styles there, and I had Gunner there, and a bunch of different people. Rock and Roll Express, and had a bunch of big shows there. Drawed some good houses, and then I started running road shows a lot. And they were calling me King of the Road shows in Georgia at one time. My son, I was keeping the road hot. I know one month we ran 12 shows on the road.
Wow.
That was crazy. And I had a crew, man. It was like, I had about 8 or 10 guys that were faithful, and they believed in me, and I'd book all of them, and they'd help me set up and tear down and travel, and I'd bring in other talent around them. I'd bring in another, 8 or 10 guys around them, and we'd have some great shows. But while we're doing that, I was bringing in top-notch guys like y'all and stuff, I was putting y'all with them guys, and them guys were getting better. And they were picking up knowledge from all these other guys, man. Right. And they just, them guys, they had faith in the product, and they learned and they listened to me. I was hard on them though. I was rough on them, and because I had a picture in my mind what I want and the way I wanted it to be.
Right.
And but they it worked. It worked. Then after that, me and Johnny kind of peeled away from each other. I started running some side projects with Georgia Premier Wrestling with Daryl Moores. Actually, he wanted me to do I started doing at DSCW. I ran a cancer show, American Cancer Society. He was doing a big fundraiser for them. So I helped him do one. So we said, hey, let's start doing stuff together, because he helped me and he helped put the work in. And I was, spread thin. It's spread thin doing a lot of that stuff by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Promoting and everything, and working in towns and hanging the posters and, just forking out money ahead and, to get stuff. You had to have insurance policies and, you got to pay for everything in advance. So,
right.
Well, I got with Daryl, and he just took a lot off of me, and we started running a lot of road shows again. We'd go, we ran from North Carolina, Georgia, and Tennessee, and strong. We ran a lot of areas, probably 10 or 12 different areas. We ran Hiawassee, Blue Ridge, LJ, Canton, Rossville. We ran, there's way more than that. Not Sweetwater, Tellico Plains, Cleveland. I know I'm leaving out a bunch. Jasper, we ran other places, but we ran a bunch. We probably run 10 or 12 different places, rotating them out. And man, we stayed busy. We did good. We drawed good. Then we just quit running road shows, period. We settled down in Canton. We put our nose down. We started running Canton twice a month. And it was, it did good, anywhere from 150 to 300 people, Yeah. When I had AJ Styles there, I had AJ Styles while he was on WWE he was wrestling for WWE already. He did Royal Rumble, like 2 weeks later, he wrestled for me. So we sold out the gym. We put about 600 people in the gym, and we had to cut it off because it was so full you couldn't move in there. And that was great. But we ran Canton probably 4 years, I guess, and then we moved out of the Buffington gym and started running in another place, which was a church, and another guy there decided he was going to start running wrestling, and we didn't want to. He said, "Well, you can still run here," but we didn't want to have two shows.
Conflicting, yeah.
Yeah. So we ended up going back to the Buffington, and after that, with the other guy running, it started being he said, she said kind of thing, and it got to be aggravating.
Right.
And it got to be stressful. And to me, it was more trouble than it was worth. I was making good money and had some money put back and was able to do and buy stuff. My Durango out there, wrestling paid for it. It didn't cost me a dime,
Yeah, that's good.
My wrestling paid for it. So, I guess it's special to me. I might end up keeping that old thing forever. And, everything we had was took care of. So, after a while, we both kind of decided we were going to get out. And, we were lucky enough to, get everything we made. And this isn't common for most wrestling, and I'm not pulling my own chain, but I guess I am too. We didn't, everything we bought was paid for. It paid for itself.
Right.
Even if we had fronts of money, we always got it back, and everything was paid for. So we never did lose money, and we're never in a hole. And
And that's really good for an independent promotion.
Yeah. And then we were able to sell our stuff, and then we sold the show too for a profit. And we had to work it out with some payments. I can't really say what the whole deal on that, but we worked it out on some payments and stuff. And I got my money first, because Daryl kept it going a little bit after I left, and I've just kind of walked away and haven't looked back. And each time I want to start running wrestling again, I get on the internet, and then I realize I don't want to run wrestling again.
Well, those shows were some really good shows. I always really, really enjoyed working for you, because I knew it was going to be professional. Mm-hmm. I knew it was going to be a good old school, real professional wrestling product.
Yeah.
And one thing I remember you teaching me, and I don't remember if it was younger in my career, because even before I started working for you, and then we crossed paths at TWA and roundabout here and there, and but something that you told me that always stuck out to me. I used to throw punches constantly, and I remember you telling me, if you're punching that guy so many times in the face, and he's leaving this ring with not one mark, then you're telling those people that everything you're doing is completely fake, or either you're the biggest sissy in the world. That always stuck with me. And I don't throw near as many punches to the face, as I used to. But I mean, that used to be my thing. That always stuck out to me.
One thing that used to kill me, and I used to preach this to my guys, and some guys throw good punches, and some guys throw bad punches.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so if you're throwing a bad punch, I tell guys, don't throw a punch. You better not throw a punch. Well, what am I going to do? You throw a forearm.
Yeah.
Or you pound them in the back or whatever. Okay. And then another thing the guys will do, the guys get up and they start, the more punches you throw and the faster you throw them, the crappier they look.
Right.
So I would always tell my guys, you got to get punched, but you're throwing too many. So space, get your reach, get that punch, boom, let it register. Boom, let it register, and the guy gets that big sale. And that big sale's what gets the punch over. If you're throwing that waylay of punches, you don't get to get that sale out of it,
Yeah. I think that's something that's missing from today's. Oh. And I don't hardly ever watch anything new. Every now and then I'll catch something, but that's something that's missing is selling.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I remember, working with guys like the Rock and Roll Express, and I mean, Ricky Morton, he's the world's best at selling. Doubt. And I mean, that's one of the things that he always used to say. You give me that big old body slam, let me sell it. Don't jump right on me. Right, let me sell it. Let the people see my face. Let it, like you said, register. And I think that's something that's missing from so much of wrestling today is these guys, and I mean, they can go out there and have some awesome matches, athletic matches, and do amazing things. But it's like you hit me, I hit you, we do spot, and nobody's selling nothing, and that takes away from the place where the babyface is supposed to get sympathy, and the crowd is supposed to be getting drawn into the story.
Well, they want to get intertwined with it. They want to be a part of that match with you.
Yeah.
And like you said, when you get the big slam, boom, Ricky's in there selling. That's your job to taunt him.
Yeah.
You're taunting him, telling him, what about your hero now? And that's a lost art, because the boys are worried about impressing the boys nowadays instead of impressing the people that's paying to see them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying all guys are like that. Don't get me wrong, because there's good in all of them, and there's bad in all of them too. You know, there's. I guess it's got to get pickier, lesser of two evils. You know, what you want, but guys, just nobody teaches that psychology. They just teach the moves nowadays.
Right.
You know, it's that's the society we live in. People are different. The wrestling fan nowadays, if you don't mind me saying, the wrestling fans are different nowadays than it was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, Lord, 10 minutes in a match, you know, they're looking at their phone, or, you know, they're bored. You know, it's people don't have the attention span that they used to have with wrestling. I mean, dude, in the 60s, you could grab a side headlock and work it for 15 minutes and it'd get over. Yeah. Of course, people didn't have cell phones to look at, and it was just a different world as far as entertainment. Nowadays, it's just people.
Microwave society.
Yes.
They don't have that. They can't stick with something long enough to.
Yes. I mean, my son's that way. I mean, he's like 5 minutes something, he's ready to do something else. Right. You know. So that's times have changed. Wrestling's changed. The fans have changed. I mean, the format's changed.
Right.
I mean, now you got to have all the bells and whistles. You got to have the pyro. You got to have the screens. You got to have all that. You know, if not, where back in the days you didn't have to have that. All you didn't have was a ring and guy come. You didn't have to have ring music and this and that. So
right.
It's it's a different time. You know, it's like I said, get with it or get left behind nowadays.
Oh yeah.
So.
All right. So after wrestling, after promoting, now we've already talked. I'm gonna have you back in a few months. We're gonna talk some more. So there ain't no way we could cover in one podcast all the stories and wrestling, and so we'll definitely be having you back to talk about more stuff. But just in these last few minutes, I want to discuss the last couple of years. You know, you coming out of wrestling, taking a break from promoting. Mm-hmm. I know you said fishing.
Yeah.
Church.
Yeah.
You know, so what's been going on with you?
That's well, of course, it's been a spiritual battle with me over the years. You know, I turned my back on the Lord many a times where, you know, He never turned His back on me, but I turned my back on Him, and it's the good thing about, you know, you have a forgiving Lord, and I've been going to church and rededicated my life to the Lord and got back straight with Him, and active in my church. I'll go to New River Baptist Church. We good old country church, you know, about 30 to 50 people, you know, nothing really big, but got a lot. The Holy Spirit's always there and rolling around, though.
That's good.
Good little church, got a good church family. We're real active in the church, me and my wife, and I run the Facebook page for the church, and I've started doing some stuff with it, and it's the Lord's been good to us, and I just want to give Him the praise for that too. You know, He's humbled me and made me look at life a lot different. You know, just a lot of things you overlook, and then you don't realize when you're out of the glory of the Lord, man. You don't realize the little things that are blessings,
right?
And it's like it's hard to, you know, it's just hard to explain what the Lord's been done for me, but my life is good, and it ain't never been so good,
right?
And I know where it comes from, and you know, people want to talk to the Lord or ask the Lord for something when things is going bad, you know. And you got to remember, you know, He gives you the good stuff as well as the bad, you know. And he never made me do without. You know, there's a lot of stuff I want I ain't never got.
Right.
But he gives me what I need.
That's exactly right.
And the best thing he's ever gave me is the gift of eternal life.
Amen.
You know? I get to be with him one day and be at his feet. And it's I used to couldn't talk about the Lord without getting all what's
conviction.
The word? Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I used to make that joke years ago. My buddies would go, "Hey, why don't you come to church?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, "What? Go over and get under conviction? Are you crazy?" Ain't nothing worse than somebody that's fell from the grace of the Lord and knows a little bit,
right?
Because they can make light of it, and that's what I did for a long time. Just back and forth, and devil got a hold of me, and wrestling was part of it.
Yeah.
Wrestling's hard on marriages. It's hard on a person. There's a lot of demons out there that you have to deal with in the wrestling world. And it's up to you to make the choice whether what you're going to do with it. What's put in front of you.
Mm-hmm. That's like with me. Whenever in 2012, whenever I first gave my life to the Lord, there was a period of like almost a year where I didn't go do any shows. I remember the last thing, one of the last things that we did, we'd done some extra shots for WWE, and we was coming out of Little Rock, Arkansas, from the SmackDown taping. I remember Rivers and JP's in the we're putting our stuff in the trunk, and I said, "Man, I'm burnt out. I'm going home and I'm changing my number." And it was a joke the whole time, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And little did I know that the Lord was working on me at that time, But it wasn't long after that I got saved, and there was that almost a year where I just vanished. And I honestly didn't think I was coming back to wrestling, until I felt the Lord give me that motivation and desire back for it. But my desire for wrestling has never been the same.
It's different.
I used to worship wrestling, but when I was born again, I can still enjoy wrestling sometimes, but Jesus and my family are my passion. And I believe he does that for a lot of us, especially those of us who he knows would be really weak toward it. I had to stay out and distance myself for almost a whole year before I guess he felt I was strong enough to tell me I could go back. And now I'm kind of in and out and here and there and whatever, but it's just amazing riding up and down the roads. 10 or 12 years ago, we would have never been having this kind of conversation.
No, we'd have been. I won't be saying what we were saying then. But I do think when you get away, the Lord lets you separate from the things that might open that door for you to make that wrong move again. You get your skin toughened in your heart right. He throws stuff at us every day. Every day's a trial. And it's up to you what you choose, what you do with it. And he's like I said, he's been good to me. And Lord, I pray every day or so. When I pray to him, I always include the Lord, keep my heart humble and keep my eyes on you. And it's easy. I mean, I'm a Christian, but I'm not perfect. But I got somebody to take it to, and that's one of the things. People think this because you're a Christian, you're supposed to be perfect, and you look down on people, and it's not my place to judge people. That's God's job, And it's my job to let somebody see the light in me and see the difference and say, I want a piece of that.
Right.
I want what you got, you know.
I remember who you used to be. Now you're
I
a totally different
person. I hear
person.
that a lot now,
Yeah.
you know, and my mom told me one day, it made me so happy. I'm proud of the man you've become, you know, and man, I bawled and squalled, but, and I'm not perfect.
Right.
I sin daily. We all sin daily. And, but, you know, God will reel me in, and I'm like, I'll pray to him and ask for his forgiveness, and that's all you gotta do, you know, humble your heart in front of him and ask him to forgive you, and he'll do it. And it's the best decision you ever make in your life.
I guarantee it.
And people don't, you know, we're not promised tomorrow, and it's like I said, best thing ever happened to me, and best things ever happened to my family. I pray every day that my son has a relationship with God, you know, and it'll come a time. It's he's pricking at his heart little by little, you know. He's I look for just one day that he comes to have a relationship with him and serves him like we do. And I was at church last night, and a pastor was like, "Oh, this is like." He was like, "This is the." I don't know if anybody's got anything out of this lesson, but last night's lesson was like a rejuvenation for me. It was like I've slacked on my Bible study. You know, we all get. Sometimes I'll get on fire and then I'll slack. But I've been slacking here lately, and I made a promise to the Lord last night I'll start doing better with my Bible study again. So. Yeah, like I said, every day's a trial and some kind of fight, but
we all go through wilderness experiences, you know, a dry spell or whatever you want to call it. But it's during those times that our faith is being tested, and our faith is being strengthened, you know, and we're learning to lean on Him instead of on ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I have. A lot of times I won't. You know, I look for the scripture to the problems or the battles I'm going through. You know, and nowadays it's actually a little easier to find that. You know, there's a lot you can find with Google's, and there's a lot of competent sites. You know. That help you with studying to find the scripture for the problems you're going through, and it helps me. So, but anything I do with Google, I back it up with my King James, you know.
Right.
So I just, you know, if that makes sense, what I'm saying. But
well, it's like, you know, a lot of times when I'm studying, you know, I have several different translations. I have, you know, of course, Google. I've got a Hebrew and Greek books laid out. I mean, and you know, some people go in depth. Sometimes when I'm studying, I'm just reading. Sometimes I feel the need to really dig and go into the original languages and the history and the culture of that day and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's so much that we can learn from the Bible, and I tell people all the time, if your version of Christianity is boring, then you're not doing it right, because we will never understand everything that Jesus did on that cross. You know, his death, burial, and resurrection paid for so much that we don't even understand and can't comprehend. And so much of the Bible, you know, like the word mystery. A lot of times we think of the word mystery and we say, oh, you know, well, a mystery is just something, you know, when I hear mystery, I always think of that old show, Unsolved Mysteries. You know, and a lot of times you're like, well, that's something that we'll never know. But actually, in the Greek, that word, basically, the definition is hidden from the common gaze. So, yes, there's things that we won't know completely in the Word of God until we're with Him. But there's also things in there that I believe He just wants you to dig for.
Yeah.
Because the more you dig, and I know from my personal experience, the more I dig, the more I read, the more I study, the more I want.
Yeah.
And the more I learn, the less I know. And I think He designed His Word like that.
Yeah.
For the Holy Spirit to just keep drawing you back, to continue to grow you each and every day.
Yeah. It's like I said, there's you can go so far in depth, and I've never went as far as in depth as to the Greek and Hebrew, but I have friends that do, and it's just like, so, and he'll like tell me this, and there's a guy I worked with, he started another church, and it was called he calls it Pursuing Truth Ministries, I believe that's what it calls. But his goal and the church's goal is just to find the truth, find the meaning. I mean, the in depth. I worked with him, and man, he just would break out some of the stuff to me, and like, did you know this? And he'd break it down in Hebrew, and this means this, and I was like, it's just mind blowing, how depth you can go into. There's so much more that can be got at it if you just put the work in.
Well, and like our, the English translation that we have, it gives us the gospel. Who Jesus is, what He did, God's redemption plan, and that's the basics of salvation, and that's totally fine. And but when I started, and I'm by no means a Greek or Hebrew scholar or anything, but I have some side by sides that it has it written in Greek, and then under it word for word. And one of the things about the Greek is it's funny, like and I'm paraphrasing, and I'm not sure this 100%, but like, okay, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. Well, in the Greek, the words may be backwards. Like, God for so loved gave His Son. And it's like, whoa. But when you read it, and you have to go back through and look at some of the stuff, but a lot of those words, they were translated the best they could be in our English language, and so on other languages around the world. But some of the words that we think of don't, we just think of the word in our English and say, okay, yeah, that's the definition. But the Greek or the Hebrew might be a more in depth. Like the words for belief and for faith. It's like one of them is pistis and one of them is pisteo or something. I probably butchered that. Like I said, I'm not a scholar. But one of the things that really intrigued me about that is, you ever heard people say, well, when you believe right, you'll do right? Okay, well, that's actually true. Because the Greek word for believing is an action word. And so it means when you're truly believing, you will be, and like we were talking about, nobody's perfect. We all fall short. But you will have a desire. When you're truly saved, you will have a desire to live a life pleasing to God. And it's because when you're truly born again, the Holy Spirit comes to live inside you, and He leads you. Jesus said He talks about the Holy Spirit a lot from John 12 to John 16, and so I can't remember exactly. I think it's in John 16, but he talks about, when the Spirit of truth comes, He will lead you and guide you in all truth. And you know, that's navigating. And a lot of times we don't think about God wanting that much control or to be involved in our lives that much. You know, we're, like you mentioned a minute ago, a lot of people, they'll take him off the shelf and try to dust him off and pray whenever they need something. Yeah. And I mean, not beating anybody over the head, because we've all done it. Yes. We've all had times where, you know, maybe we're not living for the Lord, or we're doing our own thing, and then, you know, we get a bad report from the doctor, or you know, a family member, or something happens, something goes wrong, I'm losing my job, whatever, and we're like, oh Lord, help me, you know. But if you, I heard a saying a long time ago that stuck with me. It said, if you only pray when you're in trouble, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know, we shouldn't treat Jesus like a jack-in-the-box, where, you know, whenever we need something, we'll take him off the shelf and wind him up and let him pop out and fix everything, and then put him back. Right. You know, he wants our whole lives. Yeah. And he wants to be involved. And you know, you were talking about praying and going to him about your needs. He wants to be involved in our lives like that. Not just, hey Lord, I need this, you know, but just as a friend. Yeah. You know,
I just want to tell you I love you.
Right.
You know, that's standing giving testimony at church, you know. I just, you know, and another thing, God uses us in these situations. He wants, it's a trial. He uses us to see, I mean, other people's going to see us like, you know, so-and-so's got cancer, how's he going to act? You know, God uses us to witness and I guess, show what we have. You know what I'm saying? God uses us, I'm trying to say this, I'm trying to put this in words, in a situation to see how we're going to react. Yeah. We're just a pawn in this game, you know. I won't call it a game, but you know what I'm saying. Right. I'm bad with words sometimes. But he uses us, you know, as a tool. You know, it's like, I want, like I said a while ago, I want what he's got, you know. What's so special about this? But when we go through situations and people see how we react, and you know, he uses us, and I just, you know, I want to be a stronger Christian, and like I said, I want to be that light, and people see me and say they want what I got, you know. But I'm sorry, I'm just bad with words sometimes. That's the old mushy brain from too many chair shots.
No, that's, and I wish people could see. And I mean, I know one time I had a good friend of mine who's in the business tell me, and this was shortly after I'd come back to wrestling. It was like 2013. And he had told me, you know, he'd watched me a few times at a few different shows, and he said, you know what I mean, I was always the guy, and I don't remember if I ever did it at your show or not. I know there was plenty of times where we'd been drinking, but I don't know if I ever tried sneaking.
I never caught you.
Yeah, I don't. But you know, I mean, we used to sneak a case of beer in our bags and stuff like that. But you know, I remember him saying, and you know, he said, you know, I've been watching you, and he said, I just don't understand. He said, I thought for sure when we got Casey Kage back around the boys and hanging out and everything, you know, you'd be right back to the same
old Casey.
Same old Casey. Yeah. And I said, man, I said, I don't desire anything that I left behind, you know. But that's the thing that I wish people could understand. And, you know, sadly, there are a lot of people out there who, what do they call it? Jailhouse religion. When they get in trouble, they're all about God. But then when everything seems okay, they're like, okay, well, back to my worldly ways. And so a lot of people see those kind of examples. And listen, everybody has struggles. You know, there's addictions and there's things that people go through. So not making light of people who, you know, there are people who legit want to have a true relationship with the Lord. But, you know, they keep getting drawn back by an addiction or whatever. And then there's those who are just hoping the Lord's going to get them out of their mess, and then so they can go back to whatever, you know. It's like, you know, somebody overdosing and praying, okay, Lord, help me. I'll never do it again. Never do it again. Yeah. And then, you know, the next night after they get out of the hospital, they're snorting another line or whatever. But I wish that people could understand what it truly is to have that relationship with Jesus and to be truly changed. I mean, I know who you were. You know who I was. We're not the same.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and it's who you are now it's hard to explain. Yeah. You know, it really is. And it's, man, it's like my heart has a glow, you know. It's like, it's just a feeling of comfort.
Right.
Even when things are bad. And it's when we are having bad times, my health's down, or I'm sickly, I still have faith in the Lord. You know what? And I'm not afraid to die. If the Lord wants to take me now, I'm ready to go. I'd like to stay around and see my son grow, but I'd be glad to go in a heartbeat, you know, if he wants to take me.
Right. That's one thing that it just reminded when you said that. That's what reminded me of. We were reading in Hebrews last night during our Bible study, and now I can't remember exactly which verse it is, but it's talking about Jesus and talking about how he took. Okay, let's see. Okay, Hebrews chapter 2, verses 14 and 15 says, "Inasmuch then as the children have partaken of flesh and blood, he himself likewise shared in the same, that through death he might destroy him who had the power of death, that is the devil, and release those who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage." So what Jesus did, took the fear away for us who believe. I mean, of course, I'm the same way. I would love to stay around, see my kids grow up and be here, you know, as long as the Lord will let me.
Yeah.
But when it comes my time, I'm not afraid to go.
Yeah.
It's because I know where I'm going, and I know that my family is going to be there with me. You know, and so that fear of death is something that so many struggle with.
Yeah.
And I know for me, and I was a Christian, but there was a time in 2018 where for several months there, I went through a deep bout with anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And I had never experienced that to that level. and I had preached against it.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're anxious or if you're depressed, it's a lack of faith, and which in a sense it is.
Yeah.
But also, I was preaching hard on something that I had never experienced, and the Lord showed me what that stuff was like, and there was several months there that I was so bound by anxiety, and I was terrified to go out of my house. I was terrified to. I was having panic attacks, anxiety attacks, whatever you want to call them. I was terrified that my family was going to die. The devil kept telling me, "I'm taking you out." I was always afraid that I was going to die, and it, what it all boils down to, honestly, is at that time the Lord was telling me to do something that I did not do, and it was coupled with that conviction, and I know that I'm not doing what God's called me to do right now. But it was a step of faith that I was just terrified to take. And so he had to allow me to have all of that, to get me to realize, okay, I got to trust in him. But during that time, that fear of death was so strong. And like I said, I was, it's 2018, I was saved May 6, 2012. So, 6 years or so but I was battling that so strong, but, and the fear was not dying because I knew where I was going.
Yeah.
The fear was leaving my family behind.
Gotcha.
And man, the Lord spoke to me, and it was clear as day. And he said, you have to let your family know where to turn if you're not there.
Gotcha.
And because I was taking all of the responsibility on myself, and I was like, if I'm not here, what's going to happen to my family? Are they going to go astray? Are they going to be able to make it without me? Whatever, And that's when the Lord really, and we've always done, went to church and been involved in everything ever since we gave our lives to the Lord. But the Lord was really impressing on me at that time to start doing family Bible studies.
Yeah.
Start sitting down and teaching my wife and my kids, and because a lot of times we go to church and we say, here, it's the pastor's job. But no, we are the spiritual leaders of our homes.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they can get fed and they can learn and grow a lot through church and youth ministry and whatever else they're involved in. But as the daddies and as the men of the home, a lot of men, and I always used to be this way, you probably were too, hey, being the man is being the tough guy, making the money, putting food on the table, providing for the family. That's what I'm all about. But the provider aspect is part of it. But our number one responsibility in God's eyes is to be the spiritual leader of our family.
Yeah.
And so at that time, the Lord was really impressing on me to start having family Bible studies, and I wouldn't commit to it. We would do it here and there, and then we'd fall out of it, and we got something better to do, or we'd rather watch TV or whatever.
We'll do it tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Then tomorrow never comes.
Right.
Yeah.
And and so there was some other things with ministry that the Lord was leading me to do, but that the family thing was the biggest thing that was weighing hard on my mind, and that's where he said, you've got to know that they know where to turn if you're not there. And that's where I really started understanding my responsibility as the man of the house.
Yeah.
You know.
There's several situations over the past few years that it's ended up in that situation, and God says, all you had to do is do what I told you to do, you know, and it's one of the things you're hard to explain, but as a Christian, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes God's like, get up and sing. It's that little thing. Get up and sing at church. Give a testimony, you know, that little stuff. Don't sit there. You know, God tells you to get out on the floor and do some push-ups. You better do it, you know.
Well, when he tells you to do something, he's got something for someone. And, you know, there's a lot of times as a Christian that I'm sure we will never know the people that we impact or the people that we influence. Of course, he knows. But, you know, there's sometimes that, you know, whether it be in church or at Walmart or, you know, whatever, that he will tell you to do certain things.
Yeah.
You know, some of the scariest times is being in Walmart or something like that and seeing somebody and the Lord say, go pray for them.
Yeah.
You know, or ask them if you can pray for them. You know,
Yeah.
little things like that. These are people you don't even have a clue who they are. And, you know, I've been guilty a lot of times of passing it up.
Yeah.
But it's those things like that, you know, or, you know, sharing your testimony or whatever, that the Lord impresses on us to do. And we might not see a person right at that moment, you know, go to the altar and give their hearts to the Lord. But everything that God has us to do, he's got a plan for it. So while we may not see whatever his plan is manifest right before our eyes, we might have just been, you know, planting a seed that the Holy Spirit begins working on somebody, you know.
That's what I was talking about a while ago. I was trying to get out when I was saying, you know, God uses us, you know, for something.
Yeah.
Like one of my things that I try to do now, and I try to tell everybody to have a blessed day or God bless you or something, you know, nowadays, because that might be that one little thing that turns somebody's bad day around, you know.
Exactly.
Might save him from going home and beating his wife or beating her kids or, you know what I'm saying, or killing herself. Or it's that thing you're supposed to be different. You know, there got to be a difference in you. Yeah. If there's no difference in you when you get saved, you ain't saved. Exactly.
That's exactly right.
And so I got a long way to go, you know. But,
we all do.
I'm happy and proud of the man I am. I'm ashamed of who I used to be, but that's who I used to be. Right. And that's not who I am now. And do I slip? Do I mess up every day? You know, but like I said, I always got somewhere to take it. You know, we got somebody to take it to, and I got a God I want to serve. I want to do what He wants me to do. You know.
Well, we're not perfect. The Bible makes that clear. So for any Christians out there who think that they're sinless and they're perfect, then they're wrong. They're lying. So therefore they're sinning.
Exactly.
But, you know, we're not perfect, but that's not an excuse not to strive for perfection.
Right.
Because, you know, that's sanctification. That's the Holy Spirit's primary job. The Apostle Paul, I believe it was, said that he is conforming us into the image of Christ. You know, that's his primary job. Whenever you get saved, he comes to live inside of you. He shows you truth. He convicts you where you're wrong, you know, and little by little, he's cleaning you up from the inside out, you know. So that's his job. And that's what, like you said, if there's no change, I had a pastor used to say, there is no salvation without transformation.
Yeah.
Now, everything's not completely instant. You know, some people, you know, with me, I was a social drunkard. I was a womanizer, and I was a you know, had a mouth that would make a sailor blush.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, the moment that I gave my heart to the Lord, those three things, you know, fell off.
Yeah.
Now, those are just outward things, you know, that people can see and notice.
Yeah.
Oh, but what about the, you know, and so if I go around thinking that I'm perfect in that, look what, you know, look, I don't have filthy language anymore. I don't drink anymore. I don't cheat on my wife and run around all the time anymore. Oh, yeah, but what about those little things inside, like that pride or that envy? You know, those little things that you can keep hid, you know, he comes after those things too.
Oh, yeah.
So he's cleaning us up. That's his job, and it's a daily process. It's the sanctification process. And he's going to do it as long as we will submit to the leadership of the Holy Spirit.
You know, I have to share this, one of the biggest battles I ever had, and I give my life back to the Lord, getting active in the church again, and something in my head was telling me, what do you want me to do? You want me to do something, Lord? What do you want me to do? It was 6-month battle. I had sleepless nights. I would lay there, Lord, what do you want me to do? Just tell me. Please tell me what you want me to do, Lord. And I'd pray about it, and I'd ask him, and I'd just sit and talk to him. And I'd talk to my wife about it, and it was such a battle, and I was just like, I'm exaggerating. It was 4 months. It was a 4-month battle, and I was like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to lead the choir? Do you want me to, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to go out? Do you want me to start this or that? You know, there was so many options, and it just wasn't there. And one night I was lying there in my bed and in my sleep, and God spoke to me, and he says, you know what I want you to do? Well, I'm like, God, you know, in my sleep, I'm like, yeah, what do you want me to do, Lord? And he's like, worship me. And all that time, that's what I was like. He said, I want you to worship me. And I finally got that peace, you know. I'm like, gosh, it was so simple.
Yeah.
All this time, you know, and God will speak to you, you know. And it was like, when you least expect it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, bam, worship me. And I sit up in the bed, and I'm like, Brandy, you're not going to believe this, you know. He told me what he wanted. What? I said, he said he wants me to worship him.
Yeah.
You know, because you know, you gotta worship before you can do anything else. And it's hard to. Isn't that a weird? Is it weird though? That it was just like it consumed me, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of times the simplest things, and you know, but that's huge.
Yeah.
Because worship and getting in the presence of God, that's something that, you know, anybody who will listen to this and don't understand what a true relationship with Jesus is, or what it's like to be in the presence of the Spirit of God, they'll think we're crazy. But that worship, that is your time with the Lord. And there's so much. And sometimes, you know, it can be completely silent. Sometimes you're talking, praying. Sometimes you're weeping, you know. But those times of worship are essential in the Christian life. One of you said hard things, and that brought to my mind. I was telling my kids the other night that my wife was laughing about it at that time, because she knows, you know, how it used to work, coming from the business. You know, before I got saved, you know, personal and business was completely separate. You know, we didn't let anybody know if we had girlfriends or we was married or anything like that. You know, we couldn't do that. We had an image that we had to uphold, and you know, one of the old wrestler thoughts was, well, you know, if you got all these good looking guys who the women know are taken, then they ain't gonna buy tickets.
Yeah.
You know? So,
oh yeah, that was one of the first things we were taught, was like, make yourself seem available.
Right.
Always make yourself seem available.
Yeah.
My first wife didn't like that.
Yeah, I know. Well, none of them do, and it's understandable.
Oh
really.
yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
But you know, we had many arguments over that. But you know, when I got married, she knew what she was marrying. She knew who I was, and you know, so
your lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though I look back at it and I don't agree with 99.9% of the lifestyle that I had, but you know, everything was, I had a business side and I had a personal side, and they never got mixed.
Yeah.
And so you know, whenever I first got saved, the Lord started dealing with me, and I was having that kind of feeling. I couldn't get exactly what He was wanting, but I mean, I had a burden, and I couldn't get it to come out. I couldn't figure out. And one day, He was telling me, post some scripture on your Facebook. Oh Lord, this is Casey Kage. This is, you know,
yeah.
You know, talk about me. Go public with your faith. I'm like, Lord, this is, you know, I'll create one under my shoot name, and just add, you know, personal friends and family. You know, I'll do that. You know, but this is business. I don't need to mix my personal and my business. And you know, basically the Bible says, if He don't have all of you, He don't have none of you.
Yeah.
You know,
To get a spanking.
bad.
Yeah.
But I ended up, you know, doing it, and I Facebook and Twitter, and I would tweet Bible verses and just anything that the Lord laid on my heart, and it become more natural to me. And of course, a lot of the boys, you know, thought I was, you know, I'd been off wrestling for, you know, almost a year, so everybody thought I was coming back with this new gimmick. You know, oh, Casey's going to have this
Gonna be a preacher,
this Christian preacher gimmick or
Evangelist.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, they soon found out that it was a true, you know, heart and life change. But that was one of, you know, in my early days of being a follower of Jesus, that was one of the biggest struggles for me, because I was like, oh Lord, now that's personal. We need to keep that personal. That way, you know, if I go back and they want me to do some sort of a darker storyline or an edgy storyline, you know, a DX or a Stone Cold kind of character, something like that. You know, that's business. This is personal. Let's just keep that. But you can't. Yeah. You can't keep those things. If you're truly born again, you can't keep those things separated forever. I mean, who you truly are. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a Christian gimmick, but I mean, you know, who you are is eventually God's gonna He's gonna make you bring it out, because you know, Jesus says, Luke 9:23, and it's recorded in the other Gospels. But if anyone wants to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. You know, so deny self. You've got to deny who you are, your own talents, education, abilities, all that. You've got to deny yourself and be sold out to Jesus.
Yeah. And
it's not necessarily that he's not going to allow you to still work in the areas that you're familiar with, like, putting you back in wrestling when you're strong enough or whatever. But he wants all of you, not just some, not just whenever you need something, but he wants your whole life.
Yeah.
You know?
That segue there, that segue to a story. You're talking about social media. Social media is a powerful thing. It's
I love it and I hate it.
Exactly. It's a fine-edged sword, I've done a lot of changing on my now I post nothing negative on my social media. I'll catch myself sometimes getting ready to do that negative thing and I'll stop. Mm-hmm. And so over the years, I've started posting stuff about church and my blessings and Bible scripture and whatnot. That's what I post now. And I was having a friend with a supper with a friend one night, a long-time friend, Rush, and is what he wrestled by, I guess, Guy Bailey. But we were eating and he's got, dude, it was worse when I got my life back together, got with the Lord, and I said, he goes, can I ask you something? I'm like, he goes, yeah. He goes, man, I'm always looking at your Facebook and you're posting all this Jesus stuff. He goes, are you dying? I think I said that we die daily. Yeah. But I said, no. I said, no, man, I'm not dying. There's nothing wrong with me. He goes, I just swear you're always posting all this Jesus stuff. And I said, dude, man, I said, I love Jesus. I said, my life. I said, you just don't know. When there was 2 or 3 of us there, and I'm like, it was me, him, and Tank, and Collins boys. And I was like, dude, you just don't know what God's done for me. Mm-hmm. And it's just changed my life. But he goes, okay, I was just wondering. He goes, that's fine, And I'm like, dude, man, I said, I hope you get what I get someday. So I swear it was like yesterday or day before yesterday, he posted on Facebook. It was a church get together, and he's like, come join us. Wow. And that made me happy. It made me smile.
Praise the Lord.
That was a blessing, and I don't know where he is and what his relationship is, but at least he's
moving in the right
direction.
direction.
He's moving. He's getting an earful of it, and so it just,
that is awesome.
Isn't that crazy? It's he just like, are you dying? I'm like, no, man. I said, I wish you could have what I can. And then that opened the door. Me and one of the Collins boys, we just sat and talked about Jesus out in the parking lot, and it was just like, yeah, I feel like you do, and blah blah. It was just like these folks, you think they're not paying attention to you, but they are.
Yeah, they're
watching you, and they're waiting on you to fail. But a true Christian knows we all fail.
Right.
So, but I wanted to share that about the social media, and when you said that, I was like, yeah, I got to tell this story because, like I said, it is a powerful thing, and it's used. I hate to say it, it's used probably 80%, 85% more evil than it is good.
Right.
And there's just so many times I'm like, man, I'm just going to get rid of this. And next thing you know, I'm like, well, this is the only way I get hold of some of my loved ones and families. But there is good use, It's like I said, we started up a Facebook page for our church. And so I've been running it. And, I post songs and I post old things. And it's more coming that we're gonna do with it.
Yeah.
So it's just in the ground stages, but I've got a lot of ideas that we'll plan on doing with it. So I'm excited about it.
That's like me. I've had such a love-hate relationship. Now when it was all about promoting Casey Kage, the character, then it was all good because I didn't pay attention to anything. I was all consumed with myself.
Yeah.
I didn't care what anybody else was right. But man, there's so much I I hate social media, and there's been so many. I've deleted so many Twitter accounts and Facebook accounts.
Same here.
And then, you know, I can go without it, but then the Lord reminds me, you know, this is an outlet for the gospel.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, so I'll get back on there and create another page or whatever, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, even though there's a lot of things on social media that I don't agree with and whatever, if it's a place for me to share the gospel, then that's fine. But most of the time these days, I'll get on there and I'll post whatever's on my heart, you know, and then I get off. I don't do much scrolling around.
Well, it gets to the point, you know, like I said, you get tired of reading all the negativity. But with today's times, I hate to say it, with COVID and stuff, a lot of people don't get out and go to.
Right.
A lot of people are not going to church and stuff now. So a lot of people, we'll be church. We got, like I said, we'll have 35 to 50 people there on Sunday, and we'll have, by the end of the week, 600 to 1,000 people it's reached. So it's a powerful thing. You know, there's a lot of folks, older folks, that can't get out of the house and they'll watch it at home and stuff.
Right.
So I just like, what do you do? So I just started, a lot of folks, and if I get fed up with seeing the negative, instead of unfriending them because I still want them to see my stuff, I'll hit the unfollow button.
Yep.
That way none of their stuff pops up in my feed. So, but that way they can still see my stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's. I found that unfollow button too, and I never knew it existed.
Yeah,
I thought I have to see what all these people are posting, but no, I don't.
Nope, you don't. They can still see yours, not unless they hit unfollow. So
yeah,
well, that's great.
It is. What's the church Facebook page again? New River Baptist Church?
New River Baptist Church. There's actually an old one that's not active anymore. I'm actually going to try to get with Facebook and get it removed. But it'll be the one with the most recent, the most recent stuff. It's New River Baptist Church. But we got a lot of stuff coming up in the future. We got some singing coming up and some stuff. And I'm putting on an event that you're actually going to be part of on April 24th at Horseshoe Bend Park down there. We got one of the pavilions down there. We're going to have you and Ranger Ross. Y'all going to come down there and do some witnessing. And then I've got some local singers from the Blue Ridge area that are very talented. And we're going to get them all to sing a couple songs a piece. So it's just, we're going to have free barbecue and hot dogs and bottled water and stuff. So we're just hoping to get out there and somebody hears the gospel.
Yeah,
and
I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be great. We're calling it Praise on the River. So it's right next door. I mean, it's right beside the Coal River. It's so beautiful down there. You're going to love it down there.
Yeah, that'll be great. And like I said, I plan on, hopefully, if we can get together on it, be able to have you on another time before then. That way we can talk some more about that, because I know you're in the beginning stages of planning it and getting everything together. So
the Lord made this easy on me. It was so much easier to get together than it was a wrestling event.
Yeah.
Oh, I swear, I had it done in a day, man. Everybody's like, man, could you come sing? Could you come give witness? Oh, I'd be, I'm honored to. And
yeah.
The venue lined up and got it rented and lined up, and just everything fell together. Great, we'll probably have some kind of struggle along the way, but we'll get through it with the Lord's help.
Well, with something like that, you ain't got to worry about a bunch of crybaby wrestlers. So, well, what's my creative? What are you gonna do with me?
What you gonna do with
me? How much is that gonna be worth?
Well, do I get the belt?
Yeah, am I gonna get the belt? I need the belt.
I want to do some stuff. I want to do some events. I want to promote some gospel singings and stuff. I've had the desire, and I just hadn't done it yet. But Lord told me to do this, so I hopped right on it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do nothing with it, not unless it's in His will, So
Right.
What the flesh wants and what He wants is total different things. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that's what He wants when I do it. So
That's the truth. Well, I'm looking forward to that one. I'd love and be honored to help you out any way possible in the future. So, but I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. It's been great, man. It's been a blessing to me.
How long's it been since we've seen each other in person?
Oh, gosh, I guess probably the last time you worked for me. No, we've seen each other since then. We were in Cleveland.
Still been a while.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, it's been
Lordy.
5-6 years,
Golly,
maybe.
No,
No, it's been longer than that. It's about 7 years. We'll talk on
Surely
Facebook
not.
every now and
Yeah.
then, but I guess about 7 years.
Lordy.
That's a long time. Like I said,
Yeah,
I'm horrible
surely
with
not.
time frames. It could have been 15 years. No.
Surely it ain't been, surely it's not been that long.
Trying to think.
I don't know. Either way, it's been too long.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
But I'm glad that we can get together and do this. And
Me too.
and talk.
I wanted to do it in person because I just feel more comfortable doing it like this,
Yeah. I've enjoyed it. You got anything else you want to say before we wrap this thing up?
No, I can't think of nothing. Just try to get out, maybe go to church somewhere, and give the Lord a try, and I don't think you'll regret it at all.
No, you
without a
definitely
doubt.
won't. Woody's Church, New River Baptist Church. It's on Facebook. I see them posting live streams and stuff like that. So check them out. And we just thank him for being here with us. And till next time, God bless all of you. And we pray that y'all have a wonderful day.
For all Wrestling for the Faith updates, follow Casey on Facebook and on Twitter at Real Casey Kage.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Wrestling for the Faith with Casey Kage.